All right, guys, I've got a thought experiment for you. Imagine that I gave you 1 week to make an extra $1,000. What would you do? Would you take on extra hours at your job, get some overtime pay? Maybe you'd go work for DoorDash and hopefully make the extra money up. What would you do? Now, imagine that instead I gave you 1 year to make $100,000. You'd probably do something different. You probably wouldn't work for DoorDash. You probably wouldn't just take on overtime jobs. You'd probably think about getting a new career. Maybe you'd get a high income skill or you'd move into sales. You'd think differently. Now imagine if I gave you 3 years to make $1 million. Once again, you would probably think differently. You'd be like, I guess I need to start a business, or you'd have to sell something really expensive and you'd have to be really good at it. Now, again, imagine that I gave you 10 years to make $10 million. Once again, you would have to think differently. You wouldn't just start a business. You'd have to think about a business that was going to make you a ton of money. It couldn't just be some job where you're cutting the grass, some sort of business like that. No offense to landscapers, but that's a hard business to make 10 million a year in. You'd have to think like software companies or something crazy, some huge business. You'd have to think completely different about it. This is something that I'm coming to call the timeline effect. It is when you change the timeline that you were thinking about and you have to change your approach. Now, this is something that I discovered because we're coming to the end of 2024. And so like you guys, I'm thinking about what I want to accomplish in 2025. I'm thinking about my 1 year goals. And then while I was working on this, it occurred to me, I was like, well, what could I get done in 3 years or 5 years? And all of a sudden I realized just how much was possible. I was like, oh, in 5 years, I could get so much done. Like basically anything's possible. And then I said like, what could I get done in 10 years? And I was like, I could be a billionaire in 10 years if I really wanted to be. It was such a mind-blowing experience for me to realize that if you just increase the timeline that you're thinking on, what's possible for you opens up dramatically. And this isn't just a fun little thought experiment, although it is that. It's also an important step in actually achieving something big. Think about it. If I give you 10 years to achieve some massive goal, what you do in the day-to-day moments is going to be different than if I give you 1 week to achieve some small goal. So like we already discussed with what actions you would take to make $1,000 in a week. If I give you $1,000 in a week, well then you're going to go work DoorDash or something like that. So your actions in the day-to-day are going to be a certain way. Whereas if I give you 10 years to make $10 million, you're probably going to spend the first year on nothing but education. You're going to be learning how to code. You're going to be learning about venture capital or private equity or investing. You'd learn stocks. You'd learn something like that. You'd spend all this time on education rather than just basic little actions. So by changing the timeline, we open up new possibilities for ourselves. Bigger goals become possible. And because of that, our day-to-day actions change. And this is also why a lot of people aren't getting anywhere in life. They're too busy thinking on small timelines. If you've got bills to pay, you're not thinking about 10-year timelines. You're thinking about what you can do right now to pay those bills. And this is a really important concept to understand. If you want to achieve big things in life, you have to be able to think longer term. You have to be able to be patient. Imagine that you had a beach trip in 2 weeks, because this is right here what I'm about to tell you. This is what most people do when they're trying to do a fitness transformation. They've got some beach trip coming up in 2 weeks, and they tell themselves, how can I look a little bit better on the beach? They go to the gym a couple times, they cut their calories a little bit, they take some sort of diuretic that makes all the water get out of their system so they look a little bit leaner. They do all these kind of gimmicky things. They take fat burners, stuff like that. But what if I told you you had 3 years to have the body of your dreams, some 1% physique? Well, every day you'd probably just get up, you'd work out, you'd eat right, you'd sleep good, and in 3 years you'd have your dream physique. But that dream physique is not possible on a 2-week timeline, and so you're going to do gimmicky kind of stuff and you're going to get mediocre results. The biggest possibilities in life require you to think on longer timelines, which requires patience, which is something most people are lacking. And so what most people do is they look for the immediate gratification, the quick fixes. Marketers play to this. That's why every get-rich-quick scheme tells you can make $10,000 a month in 30 days. It's funny how all of them basically say that same thing. But in reality, most people don't have that experience. It's putting in the time and getting this amazing career, but it took 2 years to get to that point. But again, people go through this immediate gratification loop where it's like, I want this thing quick. I want it now. They're not willing to just delay, and get the big payoffs that come from being patient. Think about it. I mean, every guy has had this experience. It's a Friday night, you're single, you're feeling lonely, and you tell yourself, you know what? I need to go find myself some girl. And so you decide to go download a dating app or something like that because you want a girl for the night, you want to hook up with her, you want to go on a date, something like that. Basically, every guy has been in this situation. And what happens is, we all know, like, you download Tinder, you download Hinge, you're hoping you can get a date in the next hour or something. It's a pipe dream, and every guy knows it when he's doing it, but he's just kind of desperate in that moment and lonely, and so he goes for it. And you never get a girl, or like best case scenario, you get some girl you don't actually want, and you're disappointed. But again, it's because you were thinking on like a 2-hour timeline. It's like, I want an amazing girlfriend right now. It's like, that doesn't happen. But if I told you you have 1 year to find your dream girl, again, you're going to think differently. You're going to think about, oh, maybe I should have a nice place to live so that she can come back to it and I look like a respectable guy. Maybe I should be making enough money to take care of her. Maybe I should be in good shape. Maybe I should dress well, have some class. You think about those kinds of things. Whereas if you're being impatient, you're just thinking about the night, you're not making any improvements. You're just going to throw up of 6 pictures on a dating app and hope for the best. And most guys are going through these little timelines over and over again. It's every weekend hoping for the best on a dating app rather than thinking long term and realizing I could get whatever I want in a year. I could have any girl I want if I just put in the time and put in the work. It's the same with a physique. It's the same with your career. So the power of the timeline effect is it opens up possibilities for you. Bigger visions can come into reality when you give yourself more time and you are patient with things. And so from there, the question becomes, what is the appropriate timeline for me to be thinking on? Because it's not necessarily true that you should spend your whole life on something. Because if we wanted to play this to its logical extreme, it's like, okay, fine, how much money could I make over the course of my entire life? But I don't want to spend my entire life dedicated to some giant financial goal. There's a certain number I've got, and it's going to take a certain amount of time. But that's the key, is thinking about it like that, is saying, what do I actually want? How long is it going to take? Creating the appropriate timeline and realizing it's possible over that timeline. And then that is the way that you assess things. So like for me, my goal is a 3-year timeline. I believe that in 3 years' time, I can be making $2 million per year. It's going to be difficult. Maybe it's going to take 5 years, but anywhere from that 3 to 5 year range, I do believe I can be making $2 million a year. And $2 million a year is a number that I'm really happy with. $20 million versus $2 million doesn't make enough of a big difference for me to start thinking on some 10-year timeline and trying to make 20 million. So that's my financial goal. And maybe some of you think that's ridiculous, but I don't know. I believe in myself. I think it can get done. Along with this, when it comes to fitness and things like that, I've been getting into boxing recently, and part of me really wants to compete in a boxing fight. But I know that if for me to do that, I'm going to need to be able to dedicate serious time to this. I'm not just going to roll up in the ring with a bunch of bravado, acting like I'm going to kick somebody's ass with no training. Right now, I'm only training once or twice a week. I've got a career. I've got other things I'm focused on. It's just not my top priority as much as I enjoy it. If I was going to do this, I know I would have to block off a serious amount of time, commit to doing it, because I'd want to show up and have trained so much that I'm just completely confident in myself when I walked in the ring. To me, that's like, probably a 6-month commitment. 6 months of probably, 6 days a week, 5-6 days a week of training and doing this. I really want to do it. Not sure we're going to be able to make it happen this coming year. I would love to, but we'll see. But the point is, that's an appropriate timeline for a fitness goal. It would take me about 6 months to completely dial myself in, to feel extremely confident in my skill set so that I could roll in and just really believe that I'm going to win whatever fight that I end up being in. If your goal is you want to lose a bunch of weight in 2025, don't set some 1-month goal that's unrealistic and difficult to achieve. Set a 1-year goal, because what's possible in a year is much bigger than what's possible in a month. And then from there, guys, if you're sitting here thinking, yeah, but then I have to delay gratification so much, how do I have the discipline to just keep doing the right thing over and over again for years? The answer to this is you just break it down into little achievable steps along the way. So like my goal is to make 2 million in 3 to 5 years from now, 2 million per year at that point. But at the end of this coming year, if I make $200,000 in my real estate career, I'm going to be pretty thrilled about that. That'd be a great accomplishment. It's a great step. So you honor the process. You're happy as you go along. I've got a cousin right now. He's on a fitness transformation. He was in bad shape, but he's losing a ton of weight right now, and I'm really proud of him. I think he's down at this point 70 pounds. And he keeps going down. His goal is he's going to end up losing, I believe, 130 pounds. So his goal was to lose 130 pounds, but he's really happy with the progress he's made down 70 pounds because he's just watching the scale go down over and over and over again. But when you think on that long timeline, you open up possibilities for yourself. You realize that you can achieve anything on a long enough timeline, and that is inspiring. Most people are trapped in these boxes where they don't believe much is possible for them because they simply won't think long enough term. They feel trapped. I'm out of shape. There's no way I could get back in shape. It's like, really? You couldn't get in shape. Imagine I gave you 10 years to get in shape. Could you do it? Well, yeah, I could do it in 10 years. It's like, okay, so it's possible. It's a timeline issue we have. You're not thinking long term enough. People are like, there's no way I can make six figures. It's like, really, if I gave you 10 years to figure out, do nothing but figure out how to make six figures, you couldn't do it. Well, yeah, I could do it. It's like, okay, then you can do it. It's a timeline issue. Are you willing to put in the work and be patient with it? And that's what a lot of the game of life comes down to. And 99% of people aren't willing to do this. They're just waiting for the next thing. They're constantly thinking short term. They're not willing to delay gratification. Strategic thinkers throughout life have been great at thinking long term. Imagine you're a general. A general doesn't roll up to a war. Like, let's say you're the Allies and you're going to war with the Nazis. You didn't roll up in Germany and think, like, how can we win this war in a week? You're like, okay, can we win this war in 5 years? Yeah, we can do that. Here's how we would do it. You think strategically. You think long term. You're focused on winning battle after battle after battle so that eventually you do win the war. This is the approach of people who make it places in life. Literally, I have Jeff Bezos' book on my shelf. It's a book of all of his shareholder letters that he sent out over the years to the investors in Amazon. It's insane how from literally 1997 to, I believe, 2017 is the last shareholder letter that's in the book. The entire time, all he's doing is basically saying, we're just thinking day one. This is still day one for Amazon. We've got a lot to go. We've got a lot of other places we're going to get to. Every single shareholder letter is basically him talking about long-term thinking. Keep thinking long-term. Keep investing in the future. Big things are coming. He's never talking to his shareholders about, hey, in 3 months, I promise you we're going to have doubled profits or whatever. He never talks about it. Everything is 10 years from now. Here's where Amazon's going to be in 10 years. And that's why it's a great company, whereas a lot of these other publicly traded companies, they're so busy trying to maximize shareholder profits every single quarter that they make bad decisions, and they're here today, gone tomorrow. But Amazon just keeps growing. Companies like Apple, they think the same way. They're thinking about legacy. They're thinking long term. Warren Buffett does this with Berkshire Hathaway. You have to think on long timelines. This is such a powerful key, is the ability to be patient, delay gratification, think big. This is how you do it. Guys, I hope this concept is a game changer for you. Be sure to like the video and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.